Breach. All right. I see my face with like a quarter-second lag in my goddamn video. Oh well.
Boy.
Yeah, it's fine. You know,
Gotta love Twitch.
we'll see how much I hate that. Virtual cameras, man, they're a bit of a pain in the ass sometimes.
They really are, you know.
Do I? Hang on. Yeah, that's on that. Disconnect you. Okay, that's slightly better? Slightly better. We'll go with slightly better. Okay, yes, and we're back. Thanks for coming for a special one-shot, or not one-shot, one-on-one session with Vivian. Last time we saw you, you were heading to bed in the home of Lars Flintskin after chasing Sharit around town and kind of experiencing the mall for the first time, getting your job assignment as you're supposed to be a new hostess at the Hearth and Home. But as you approached Lars's house, you begin to notice that as the sky darkens, you still see those flares of fire from outside the city walls. But you don't see a moon in the sky. And in fact, the only thing illuminating this city is the torchlight and those geysers from outside the city walls. And for the first time in a while, you start to hear your stomach. You just hear just this ever so slightest just as you close the door to your room in Lars's house. And you start to notice something that has kind of passed you by the day or so that you've been here in the city. The air is filled with the smell of iron, because that's what they mine in the arteries. That's what they process for all of the weapons and construction here. But it starts to remind you of something. That heavy iron smell hits your nose with a tinge of human blood. And you find yourself a need for food. So you're presented with three choices here in this room. You have the door to the hallway, where you know that Lars is downstairs. Tio said he was going to be sleeping in the living room as well, next to the fire. Maybe he'll cook you up some food. No. You also have the open window next to you to help keep the room cool, with access to the street below. And your third option is maybe try and go to bed and ignore it. What would you like to do?
Gosh. Well, first she's gonna kind of like grab at her stomach, like anxiously grabbing at it because it's been, I'm assuming a while.
It's
since
been a
she's had an
while.
urge like this.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, she's like muttering to herself, "Not now! Like, why now? Out of all places." And I'm actually gonna roll. You said
Okay.
I have three choices, right? So it's downstairs, Tio, or the window.
Correct. Or
I'm
ignoring
gonna
it.
or
Or ignoring it.
or ignore it. So it's four. So I'm gonna roll a d4, and in that specific order, we'll see what happens. We're gonna try to go to bed.
You're gonna try and go to bed?
Gonna
All right.
try and go to bed. See what happens.
Okay. You decide to roll into bed. Maybe you bundle yourself up a little bit more than you normally would just to try and make yourself extra comfy. Maybe you pull the blankets over your head just to try and ignore everything that's around you. But your stomach only grows louder and louder as, again, that smell of iron just starts hitting your nose, and all you can hear is just... You actually find yourself starting to salivate a little bit.
She goes to grab her mouth, like taking like her full hand, just kind of like trying to cover and try to like, wipe it away.
Mm-hmm.
Because she knows this is not the time, and if she were to be discovered now, it could be very detrimental to the group. But
Yeah.
oh gosh, she's honestly unsure what to do because she obviously is like, I feel like if she goes to Tio, especially with everything that's going on right now, what happened last session that I was in,
Mm-hmm.
there's a little drama. She doesn't want to start more stuff.
No, there's no
But she also doesn't really
drama.
know the guy downstairs and his opinion on her just yet.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, she's gonna risk it for the biscuit and go out the window.
Okay. So as you approach the window, you can see the street below. As I said before, just illuminated by torchlight. Otherwise, there are areas of this street that are pitch dark. You don't see many people on the street, but you start to get a new smell hitting your nose. It's less iron tinge, maybe a little more salt, almost like
Okay.
dried sweat. You think you smell people. You're not sure in what direction quite yet. This is a feeling that you normally try and suppress and kind of keep to yourself, but it's just starting to overwhelm you a little bit.
It's overwhelming me. Oh gosh. Okay.
Not entirely, but it's certainly very difficult to ignore.
Okay. Are there any places still open that she can try and possibly get to? Or is it too late in the night for that?
Considering you guys just turned in, it's probably not too late. You can try and see if, I mean, the only tavern that you know of is the Hearth and Home, which is a full district up. You're not sure if there's one here in the Warrens, at least not that you found.
And with how quickly, at least it appears to be progressing, might not even be able to make it that far up there. She's gonna try to start making her way, but if she senses that she's not going to be able to, she's gonna try to get into an alleyway as quickly as possible.
Okay. So you start trying to make your way for, like, the cable
Hearth
car
and
going
Home.
up to the other district?
Yes.
All right. Let me do this. Drop you here. Okay. So you maybe get a block up. You see that obviously a number of alleyways, very dark. You catch the smell of rotting food. You obviously they keep their trash outside. That's passing you by, but you can definitely still tell that smell of people is still hitting your nose. It's still a ways off, though.
Always off. She's used to doing this sometimes if need be. She's gonna go approach the rotting food and see if anything of it is like salvageable.
Yeah.
Desperate times call for desperate measures.
Give me a survival check.
You
Just
got
for
it.
foraging. A 13, not bad, not bad. Let me do that. There we go. You managed to find some scraps, maybe a few beef bones still with scraps of meat left on it. Maybe
I just
some.
tear into it.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, she tears
All right.
into that quick.
So your teeth just start gnawing on this what flesh you can get from this bone, and as it slithers down your throat,
voice is
it
cutting out
tastes.
again.
How about now?
That's better.
Super. As the food kind of slides down your throat, it doesn't do much to sate the actual noise and feeling of just rumbling in your core.
It wouldn't, but at least it probably did it the tiniest bit of something to possibly hold her off a little bit longer to try to get to that other district.
Give me a wisdom save.
Was oh no, I was afraid you were gonna ask that.
13. Not bad.
Lucky 13 apparently,
It
or unlucky.
it certainly doesn't sate the feeling, but you're able to move at least a little closer down the street.
All right. Then we'll keep moving towards the street and look for the cable car to try and hopefully get her way to at least the next district.
Yeah. You can look above your head and you see the line that the cable car rides down, because it passes right by Lars's home. So you start following that line to where you have boarded before, and you get a couple more blocks closer when, as you're about to duck out of an alleyway, you spot two people walking down the street. Now, there are a few houses down from you, and they seem to be walking away. But you get that smell again. That iron, that salt. They smell delicious to you.
She immediately tries to cover her nose with her hand to try and potentially knock off the smell a little bit,
Mm-hmm.
but she knows that urge is there, and part of her wants to actually go over there.
Mm-hmm.
What would I
Give
roll for resisting that?
give me another wisdom save.
Okay.
Okay, 16. You're even doing better.
Okay.
So you're able to hold that off, but as you kind of like take a step back into the shadows of the alleyway, you hear a sound from directly behind you as one of the garbage receptacles just kind of gets knocked, and it sounds like there's movement behind you. Small, but movement.
Mom. She will try to duck into what shadows there are near her to try and perceive the sound
Okay.
and see what's making it.
From nearby shadows, maybe a few feet down, you spot a pair of yellow eyes that seem to be transfixed right on you.
Yellow. What could possibly have yellow eyes? So is it like laying low to the ground? It's not humanoid? At least from what I can tell.
It doesn't seem human height, and the eyes themselves seem fairly small, but as you're kind of contemplating this, they start to get closer to you.
She will bare her fangs to try and scare it away.
You see them cease in their advance, the eyes blink once or twice, and then approach you some more.
Is there any form of lighting to help? 'Cause, I mean, I know I have dark vision,
Yeah.
but
There is
there...
a strip of light kind of beaming in from the alleyway, and as these eyes get closer to you, they actually cross that stream of light. As you just hear a meow, as a small black kitten seems to be walking over towards you.
Oh, it's a kitten. Oh no. This is gonna end so badly, I know it. She kind of takes a deep breath to try and hold it, even though she doesn't really need to breathe. Shakily lets it out. Lets her fangs kind of go back to being hidden.
Mm-hmm.
And she will bend down to hold her hand out to the kitten. Because she can't resist cute animals. She really can't.
The kitten gets closer to you, continuing to approach cautiously, but continually. It sniffs the very tip of your hand, of your finger, as it then just gives the tiniest lick at the tip of your finger.
So adorable, the poor little thing. And she tries to go and pet it and being very wary of her nails and just very, very gently. Like, goes to pet her. Is there any other animals around, or does she have like a collar possibly that would
No,
possibly show where she's
no,
from?
no collar. Bits of matted hair, but it just seems like it roams these alleyways, feeding on scraps. Um, but as you go to pet it, it kind of hinds back just a little bit, but ultimately accepts the pet, but stays where it is.
I'm going to be bold. I'm going to rummage through my bag. Would I have like any possible like rations or scraps that I could possibly feed her or it
Hmm.
him?
You, I would expect that you would have at least a small portion of rations. Sure.
Yeah,
Usually
she would
very,
break off
usually
whatever she
dried.
has.
Yeah. And as you hold it out to the cat, it looks at you, looks at the food, looks back up at you, and then with a quick swipe, just hooks a claw into it and pulls it back to them. As it then just picks it up with their mouth and starts to just chew.
Once it finishes eating the food, can I make an animal handling check to try and feel comfortable to join me? Or to at least stay by my side?
Sure. Go ahead. So you sit there with
Let's
it for a few minutes. It, this cat being a welcome distraction to you from your stomach. Go ahead
go
and give
for
me an animal
sure.
handling check.
Ugh, that's
So
not
an
good.
8. So as you try and coerce it just a little bit closer, maybe to kind of get it used to either your touch, your scent, whatever, you start to hear very heavy footsteps passing by the alleyway. Um,
She
um,
will immediately latch her mask on, or I said mask, her veil.
mm-hmm,
So that way her lower half of her face is definitely hidden, knowing what she's going through at the moment.
mm-hmm.
And she will kind of step in front of the cat to try and potentially shield it from whatever's coming.
Okay. You start to see a faint red glow approach one side of the opening to the alleyway as you see one of these fully metallic automatons, just flat face, no real facial features other than that red glow coming from its chest, as it steps at the end of the alleyway, kind of looks around, and give me a stealth check real quick.
Stealth, you got it. Can do. 21.
Nice. So it looks around, looks down the alleyway. For some reason, its range of sight doesn't quite get to you, as you see it actually staring in your direction for quite a time, almost to the point where you think it saw you. And the cat, you can hear, is kind of backing up in the presence of this thing as its head turns back towards the street and it continues walking away.
Okay, so the cat's walking away?
No, the automaton.
The automaton. Okay. When she is certain that the automaton is out of her or out of their range where it can hear her, she
Mm-hmm.
lets out this breath that she starts just innately hold because she still
Mm-hmm.
like cherishes like human qualities.
Mm-hmm.
in a way to kind of make her feel like she used to be in a sense. But
Yeah.
yeah, but she'll let out that breath kind of sigh as she will turn around back to the cat,
Turn
just
around.
see if it feels at all any more comfortable from her just kind of shielding it, even though
Yeah.
she's also technically hiding.
No, that's perfectly fine. Like, so when you turn around to go look at the cat, you notice that it has scurried off into the shadows once again.
Can I make a perception check to try and pinpoint it?
Sure. 15. You look around, and where before it was kind of causing some noise, rifling through the trash receptacles here, you don't spot it anywhere.
That's unfortunate, but definitely a good distraction. She
Yeah.
will continue moving forward
Mm-hmm.
and head towards the cable car, following the line that she sees in the sky.
Sure. As you poke your head out of the alleyway, you look side to side. You start to notice more as you have a little bit more clarity from interacting with that cat. These automatons patrolling the streets in various directions. You assume as some kind of night guard. Um,
What do you mean by seeing the automatons?
mhm.
Can she assume there's like maybe a curfew in sight, even though she saw a couple people prior?
Possibly. You're not sure.
Well, she'll just shrug and just keep going
Okay.
until she gets caught. She needs to maybe move stealthily. She'll try to hide more in the shadows, as it's more of her thing to try and blend in.
Mm-hmm. As a reminder, this is what the
Oh
things look
yeah,
like. Um,
very large and in charge.
very large. Again, the only real defining features is that red glow coming from the chest. But as you kind of head back out from the alleyway, do you stick to the main streets or are you continuing to just kind of hide in the shadows a little bit?
She'll try as much as possible to stay within the shadows and duck in and out of the different alleyways, not wanting to be caught on the main streets out of fear of being overwhelmed by the scent of blood.
Yeah. So give me a perception check.
You got it. 13 again. My
Yeah, 13 is
goodness.
your number today.
It
Um,
is.
as you get closer, you poke your head out of an alleyway. You can see the cable car station a little bit down the ways. Um, and you again just get hit with this wafting of iron and sweat. And now a little bit of meat.
This was a bad idea. She will try to not breathe in,
Okay.
trying to not smell. She is really trying her hardest,
Mm-hmm.
and she will
So,
continue pushing forward.
so maybe you just like kind of take your veil and just kind of press it up against your face,
Oh, yeah.
trying to muffle out whatever particulates in the air might be carrying those scents. And to you manage to approach the cable car station, and something that hasn't hit you yet. You haven't seen any cable cars running since you've been out here, and the streets are starting to get darker as the sun starts to set further and further behind the walls.
That can't be a good sign. Um, is she at the station yet, or
You are maybe 30 feet from the station.
can I see anybody on the outskirts or on the inside of the station from where I'm at?
You don't see any movement, and there are some windows where you would normally get your papers checked before getting onto the terminal. You do not see any lights from them.
He's
But
going to assume it's closed then.
yeah, so as you look around, you hear from a couple buildings down the street, "You there? What are you doing out here so late?"
I'm sorry. I'm a bit of a night owl. I was just trying to get some food. Where I work, and then I was gonna head right back afterwards. But I didn't realize that everything closed down so early.
So as you're explaining this, a human guard dressed in fine iron armor emblazoned with that crest that you've seen around town, that shield with a hammer, walks up to you. Nice blonde hair, um,
Oh no.
and he looks you up and down. He says, "Why are you looking for food? Why are you getting a cable car to go get food?"
Because I assumed I could just go to where I'm working at and, maybe help out a bit and, in exchange for some food and just, then return after a couple hours for the night.
He looks up
I
at
work at
the.
the Hearthen home and she'll
Uh,
hold out her papers to verify. But she'll kind of take a step back and then extend her arm as far as she can to try to
mhm.
create a little bit of distance.
He reaches out his hand to take the paper, and as he's looking at it, you notice that the hand that he is looking at it with is covered in cuts and bruises, maybe a few very like loose, haphazard wrappings. As he's just looking it over, nodding to himself, "Mm-hmm, mm-hmm."
She is biting her lips so hard that she almost might draw blood because she is just seeing that is tempting.
Give me one more wisdom save.
Oh, this is for all the marbles. Oh,
Well,
21.
look at you. All right. So you're just biting down, trying to maintain what composure you have. And he hands you the paper back. He'll take a few steps in to kind of match up with you again. And he says, "You need to be careful in the streets. You're allowed to be out here, but we try to bear down on any suspicious activity. If you're looking for food this late, I mean, it's no guarantee, but there's a tavern several blocks over. It's a walk called the Rat's Den. They might be still open for some food if you're lucky."
Yes, sir. Thank you. I appreciate it. And as she takes her papers back, am I free to go then? I'm sorry for any disturbance I may have caused.
He says, "Yeah, go right ahead. Just keep your nose out of trouble."
I will. Thank you so much. And then she'll start beelining it for that tavern that you pointed out.
He'll watch as you leave, and then, what's your passive perception?
My passive perception is. Where does it say it on these sheets? I don't know.
It's just 10 plus your perception bonus.
My perception's a +1, so it's gonna. Yeah, probably 11 then.
Okay. So let's see here. Let me see if I did this right. Do that. Okay. As you're walking away, you're like beelining it. You hear the loud crash of one of the trash receptacles as both you and the guard look down the street, and you see a small figure, maybe about, I don't know, 4 feet tall, just stop in its tracks. It's obscured by some shadows bending around the buildings, and you can tell that it's looking at you and looking at the guard, and then just beelines down one of the alleyways as the guard chases after.
He will allow that guard to run that direction because she
Mm-hmm.
definitely does not want to get into any type of altercation with someone else,
Mm-hmm.
especially not now. And she will continue making her way at probably a much faster pace to that tavern.
Okay. So you start just booking it, walking as fast as you can without drawing attention to yourself. And you get a few blocks down, um, and you get to the point where you start to see a few posters for the Rat's Den. Um,
Okay.
you haven't quite made it to the building yet, but you do start seeing a couple of people along the street.
All right. All right. How far away are they? Also on the same side, or are they on the opposite side?
Mm, since you tend to stick to one side, they're on the same side as you, just further down the street. But they seem to be walking in your direction.
This is difficult. She will. She doesn't want to draw any attention to herself, and this is probably not the smartest idea on her part.
I like
But
not
she is
smart
going.
ideas.
Oh yeah, she is going to just continue holding her breath and just
Mm.
walk forward and just not wanting to draw attention to herself. 'Cause if she feels like if she like maneuvers to like the other side, it might just look awkward, especially at night. So she's just gonna keep pressing forward and just ignore, or at least try to ignore that they're there.
Okay. So you just kind of keep your head down.
Yep.
Um, and as you kind of pass by this group of people, um, nothing happens, and you're able to move on.
Thank goodness.
So
Alright.
you're able to make it one more block, and you come to a portion where you're in a district where the houses are kind of lumped together, almost around a central alleyway. Like you have essentially cross-secting alleys that go into the same space. You've seen a couple of blocks of homes like this as they line the street, making it honestly a good place to hide if you ever needed to. But as you pass by, you start to hear a sound from one of the alleyways.
She'll turn her head so violently that you just hear like a massive crack as she looks to see where that sound came from, because her senses are basically on high alert at this point, for sure. Should I make a perception or an investigation check?
Probably a perception, just to get
Perception.
general direction.
Okay. 3.
You can't quite make out which alleyway it's coming from, but as you get closer to the rat's den, or at least further down the street, the sound does start to get a little bit louder as your nose is just assaulted by the smell of meat and blood.
Does the sound startling at all to her? For like cause a suspicion that she could be in danger?
Well, it sounds like something. It's almost like a crunching noise. If you didn't know any better, it sounded like something was eating in one of those alleyways.
She is going to make a very dumb decision because she just wants confirmation. She's going to try to call out, "Who's there?" to try and startle. whatever's there.
The uh, the noise will cease for a second, and you start to hear almost the click clack of nails on the stone ground. And it seems to be getting a little bit closer.
All right. With that in mind, if it's nails, that could be anything. She will even she'll keep her veil on, but she'll start to bare her fangs just in case to try and ward it off if need be. So they're still
Mm-hmm.
kind of hidden, but they're ready for,
Mm-hmm.
um, you know, for safety, just in
S-
case.
So as you look around, you spot from a nearby alleyway that same shadowy figure that you saw before, except it seems to be kind of hunched down on the ground. You can't make out too many defining details, but you feel as if it's looking at you.
Is this the same 4 foot figure that I saw be chased by the guard?
Roughly, yeah.
And it's hunched over. Can I make out like any other features, whether it has like fur or?
Seems to have hair on its head, and it seems to possibly be wearing some um, rags that just kind of drape down on the ground. If it wasn't for the fact that some of those rags were kind of pinched by its midsection, you wouldn't even know that it's hunching over, aside from the height.
Gosh,
It's almost like a poncho.
almost like a poncho. She'll carefully look at this creature and be like, "Who are you?" And she'll hold out her hands in like a defensive stance in
Mm-hmm.
case she needs to potentially attack.
It lets out a sound as you address it. It's a strange combination of a low growl with some of the labored breathing of someone just kind of sniffling or making the beginnings of a cry before it starts to slink back into the alleyway.
Does it, hmm, by that nature, does it seem like some sort of like experiment? Can I try to analyze its body for any markings?
You honestly don't see enough of it. You would have to either get closer to it or follow it.
I'm gonna go ahead and approach it. Be like,
Okay.
I'm not here to harm you. I want to potentially help you if you'll allow me.
So as you start approaching, it continues to back down, and it crosses over one of those kind of breaks in the alley between two buildings as some light shines on its face, and it looks like a young boy, very curly red hair, but you notice that his face is deformed into a sneer with fangs in his mouth, almost as if he was a feral cat or dog trying to scare you away. But you can notice along its cheeks seems to be the residue of dried tears. And around its mouth seems to be blood.
She is going to remove her veil after seeing that. She's going to get down on one knee and show her fangs because she feels like potentially they might be one and the same. And she doesn't often do this. She
Mm-hmm.
definitely hates doing this, but she'll carefully have her wrist out and pull up her sleeve to show off the marking on her wrist to see if they're from the same cut, essentially.
Mm-hmm. So the boy will almost like take a half step forward towards you, and you see him kind of lurch back, almost as if there's a pain in his head. His eyes clench close before he just shakes his head and runs back into the alleyway that he came from.
I'm going to follow him.
Okay. So as you reach this alleyway, you follow it down. You come out to one of these cross sections between the buildings, and you see the boy hunched over something on the ground as that sound that you heard earlier continues.
I'm going to carefully approach and try to analyze what the boy is eating. I don't want to show that because like I'm not there to, obviously take it from him because
Mm-hmm.
that's his. Despite there being blood, she's going to try to hold it together, but
Yeah.
she she wants to offer him help, essentially show that she's there for him to hopefully maybe coerce him to maybe coming back with her after she's done her business here.
Yeah. You get maybe. Where am I? There I am. You get maybe about 30 feet from him before you see on the ground. Actually, before you even get to the boy, seem to be scraps of um, clothing or armor, as what seems to be laying in front of the boy is the heap of a humanoid figure.
By the tell of that armor and everything else, does that person or thing there have blonde hair?
You're not sure, but you do see by the style of the armor, it looks to have been a guard.
Oh gosh, okay. This is not going to end well. She is going to step forward slowly, as she doesn't want to startle the boy. And if he'll allow, she is going to try to kneel down next to him. But she also wants to see if it's that same guard from earlier.
Mm-hmm. So, this is the general visage of the boy that you see, hunched over this body. And you can
Poor
tell
thing.
now that that sound is him just digging in and consuming the meat of that corpse. Um, but you see that the his form starts to shift. It's almost as if his very bone structure starts to move and take on a different likeness as you approach. His arms begin to almost pop and grow longer. His fingers starts to sprout claws almost, and his eyes begin to take in this kind of sunken effect as he looks more, for lack of a better word, undead as he continues to consume. But as you get closer, maybe 20 feet away from him now, he whips around and starts to just glare at you in a hostile fashion.
She is going to start transforming herself into her form of dread to
Mm-hmm.
try and be like, we're one and the same. I'm here to help you. I know you're in pain. I can see it on your face. I know what you're going through.
As you do that, this child's back just arches like a cat in distress. But you see, as his eyes have sunken in more, they show signs of much less life as it starts to ready to attack. So we're going to roll initiative.
Oh
There we
boy.
go. I'm gonna bring you.
I'm really trying to help
Yeah.
that boy. I
Oh
don't
yeah.
want to kill him.
Hey, you do what feels right. Let's do that. Oh boy. Oh boy. Why am I all the way
Let's
out
see.
here? Hang on. There we go. That's better. So now his form takes on a much more sinister likeness akin to this.
Oh wow.
As we will do. Nope, that's the ruler. Don't need the ruler. Need that and that.
Definitely kind of need that.
There we go. And bam.
That's fun. Love that
Oh,
for
yeah.
me.
Oh, yeah. So we will. Let's back the camera up a bit. We'll start combat. So this boy will. Let me. Do I have the right sheet open? I do have the right sheet open. Honestly, the boy is going to just start bounding towards you. Almost in a feral manner. Yeah, I
Okay.
need
This is
music.
happening.
This there. That's what I need. And it goes to attack you with a claw.
Okay.
Nice.
I need to double check my AC because I believe.
So,
I get temporary hit points, so I'm just gonna go ahead
Mhm.
and roll that because I don't think it gives me anything to my AC.
yeah, I
No,
don't think it
does
takes.
not.
I don't think it adds anything to your AC.
Okay, so I get 4 temporary hit points.
And it'll go to attack you.
Okay.
What's your AC?
13.
Okay. So it runs up towards you and goes to almost pounce on you as these claws just remain outstretched towards your person. And you manage to sidestep it just a bit, and it misses you. Narrowly, but misses you.
Okay.
You're up.
What I would like to do is obviously I'm going to swiftly turn around. I am going to go ahead and pull out my dagger. And I would like to not hurt him, but I want to try to take it and pin his clothes with him to the closest wall that I can to try to hold him steady.
Okay. Yeah, so go ahead and roll me an attack.
I don't want to do damage, obviously.
A 12 is going to hit.
Okay, so obviously I don't want to deal him damage. I'm not literally trying to hurt him. I'm just trying to pin him against the wall so my dagger digs into his clothes.
Yeah, so you managed to
hold
bring
him.
down the dagger. You hook his clothes. Give me a athletics check, because essentially you're putting him in a form of grapple,
Okay.
just involving a wall.
That's a lot. Not very athletic.
I don't. Yeah, so you two struggle for a little bit, kind of going back and forth with one another before it ultimately takes your hand that has the dagger, pulls it down, rips through his clothes, and pushes you back.
Okay.
As it just kind of lets out just this shriek towards you.
That's fair. But if I can, as a free action, I'm going to try and reiterate to him, saying, I am like you. I want to help you. And then during that time, am I able to, since I'm up close with him, am I able to try and see if there's any markings on his wrists?
So, as he readies himself for another attack, he brings his hand up for another claw attack. You do see something on his wrist. It seems to be a scarring, almost a brand, of 2 sickles laying on their back, creating almost conjoining crescent moon shapes.
Fucking knew it.
As he goes to attack you again.
That is perfectly A-okay.
And he goes to swing, He misses you entirely. He's not thinking at all. This is all just based on instinct. So
With,
you're up.
okay, with that in mind, knowing that he has the same marking as she does, she's going to whip her dagger. She's going to use the blunt end of it and try to hit him on the head to knock him out.
Okay.
He is taking this boy with her. 100%. 16.
A 16's gonna hit. You bash him in the side of the head, and you can see a little bit of blood as the blunt end of the dagger just presses in and breaks a little bit of skin. You
Sorry.
you do a little bit of damage, but it doesn't back down, and it doesn't fall unconscious.
Okay, that's perfectly fine. I'm gonna keep telling him this is for your own good. I'm gonna help you, whether you like it or not.
And again, you start to hear that kind of conjoined sound of a roar or a shriek with just a little bit of as it goes to attack you again.
I can't hear you. I'm so sorry.
No, it's fine. It was just like a as it just almost cries under its breath. You said your AC is 13?
It is 13.
All right. So one of these claws actually makes contact and just rakes across your abdomen. As you take... I'll do that. There you go. 7 points of damage.
17? That's 17. 7. Yeah, wow.
7, not 17.
I can do math.
You better hope it's not 17.
I know, right? That'd be almost all my hit points. But
yeah.
as she sees him crying, she's going to try to gauge, to be like, we don't have to fight. I can take you back with me, and I can help you figure this out, like I'm trying to figure out for myself.
Mm-hmm.
Does that warrant
You're not
any
sure
change
yet.
of behavior? Not sure yet. But if I'm going to help you, I can't have you killing me. And she's just gonna go ahead and try to bash his head in again.
20 will hit. And
All
you
right,
see
not
as it
lethal.
makes... Yeah, you see as it makes contact, he kind of like takes a half step back, shakes his head from the impact, still conscious, but let's see here.
And she definitely looks hesitant about it, because she, even though she's in her former dread, you can tell in her voice, like when she's talking, she's like very pained about it.
Mm-hmm.
She really doesn't want to hurt this boy, but if he keeps attacking her,
Mm-hmm.
she has no choice but to protect herself in order to help him out.
So after that last hit, you see him shake his head side to side, and a little bit of light returns to his eyes, just a second, and you hear him in this kind of garbled, distorted voice, just help me.
I'm gonna help you, don't you worry. We're gonna figure this out.
I'm gonna hit him again. It actually will not attack you on its turn.
Alright. She is going to put her dagger back in her side. She is going to, again, pull up her sleeve and show him the same sickle markings on her wrist. I know what you're going through. They did the same thing to me. I know what you're going through is not easy, but it can be tamed. You just have to trust me.
Give me a persuasion check.
Just a straight up persuasion?
Just straight up.
Okay. I'm proficient in persuasion. Let's go! 23! Oh my gosh. That's, I think, my highest roll I've done so far this campaign.
Yeah, probably. Between you and Tio, I can't expect some high rolls from y'all.
I know, right?
So you see the boy raises his hand to go for the claw attack, but as you say that, his hand slowly starts to descend. You see that those sunken in eyes start to glimmer with moisture before you just see some tears fall down the side of his face as you see the claws on the end of his fingers start to roll inwards, becoming those blunt fingertips as his bones start to move back into their natural order. He seems to be slowly transitioning back to the way that he was. Is there anything else that you would like to do?
If that is the case, to show respect and that she trusts him, she was going to revert her form of dread and start to have her bones realign and go back to her normal form. And she's just going to hold out her arms for him if he chooses to do so. Because all she wants to do is protect this boy and just help him out by any means possible. Because this is what she's been looking for the longest time, is someone that's like her.
So, after about a minute or so, his form returns to that of a young boy. And you see that he essentially kind of falls down to his knees. His shirt's still ripped from where he just drug that knife through, or that dagger through, to escape your grapple. And you see that his face, the entire lower half of his face, from his mouth down, is still just covered in blood, as he just sits there crying.
He is gonna very slowly approach him. She's gonna stay kneeling down next to him and just carefully pat him on the back and be like, "It's okay. There's no shame in it. I know it's difficult, and I can't imagine what you're going through at such a young age, and just being like that this young. But I'm Vivian, and I was taken at a young age by them too. And if you allow me, I want to be able to help you figure this out."
He kind of sits there, just kind of crying under his breath. After minutes of silence, hearing nothing but just his own kind of sobbing in your presence, you hear him just kind of sniffle, just, "My name's Wayland."
Wayland, it's a lovely, or it's lovely to meet you.
As your gaze moves from him to the body that's on the other side of the alley, you see that it has been torn to shreds.
So he definitely has different abilities compared to myself in regards to his form of dread.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting.
He looks
Listen,
back and says, he looks back
go
at
ahead.
you and he says, I only bit him. I promise. I, I can't, I can't use my hands."
It's all right. I believe you. Listen, and if you did, it's okay. I know you were just trying to protect yourself, and I know with the moon and how this city is, because the city is definitely very overwhelming. I wasn't expecting my senses to, you know, draw me out here either. But like
He
I
just
said,
kind
there's
of,
no shame.
yeah, he just kind of shakes his head furiously. He's like, I was, I was so hungry.
I know you were. Listen, I still haven't ate. I've been trying to fight off the urge. But here, there's this tavern here. We can try and go inside, and she's gonna go ahead and take out like a handkerchief, and she's gonna try to wipe off the blood from his face to make him look less scary.
Mm-hmm. He just kind of he accepts the the touch and the contact as he just kind of nods his head a little bit, and he says, "Okay, but it's never the same. I always get so hungry."
Always like every day, or whenever the moon's like this.
It happens a lot. It's not just the moon. The moon makes it worse, but it's not just the moon.
Well, now she, at least Vivian, can't really recall much of her time because obviously they took her when she was a kid,
Mm-hmm.
but obviously changed her when she was an adult. Does she recall 30 some odd years ago, possibly,
Mm-hmm.
if her beginnings were this challenging when she initially changed?
Hmm.
I could roll for it if you want me to.
Yeah, roll me a history check.
History can do.
Yeah.
14?
14. You realize that it wasn't easy by any means. But in terms of one for one the same, it's probably similar.
Similar, okay.
Yeah.
Well, if I'm being honest with you, Waylon, when I was first changed, it was difficult. I was changed about 30 some odd years ago. They took me when I was a kid, probably around your age, and trained me to eventually become what they wanted me to be for them. But satisfying that hunger, especially at your age when you're still so young and you're not used to even how the world is, it's so challenging. But with practice and maybe even getting out of this area, I feel like would do you some good if you'll be willing to come under my wing.
Give me a persuasion check.
Oh gosh, not another persuasion. Well, that's not bad. 17.
That's not bad. He looks at you and says, "Is it just you?"
No, there are other people. There's three others, but I'm
He
sure if
he
I explain
takes
myself.
he takes like a half step back and starts shaking his head. "No, I'm gonna hurt someone."
I know, and that I understand where you're coming from. It's trust me, when I started feeling the way I did tonight, I left because I didn't want to risk anything with my friends. But I've been with them for a while now, and I will make sure I'm right by your side. That way, if something were to happen, we can get you out. We can go somewhere, and if you need to feed, we can do so. We can find alternatives, but it won't be so bad, and it'll be good practice for you if you stay with a group for a bit.
Ultimately, he acquiesces and he says, "Okay, if you say so." And then he kind of holds out his hand, which for you being tall, it's like, eh.
How tall is you said 4 feet, right?
Yeah, right around 4 feet, yeah.
Oh yeah, she's not so bad, but she'll reach down with her long arm and hold his hand. Now, how are you feeling? Are you still hungry or?
He just shakes his head, kind of swishing about that curly red hair of his.
Okay. Well, we can't stay here because if they catch us with this body, we're gonna be toast. I'm not gonna lie. So we're gonna go around like nothing happened. We're gonna go inside the, or at least try to see if the tavern's open.
Hmm.
And then if not, well, I'll take you back to where I'm at. Okay?
He continues to shake his head. And as your eyes as you're getting ready to leave the alleyway, you look over, you get a somewhat better look at the body that's over there, and you do see that blonde hair that you saw on the guard that stopped you earlier.
Oh, no, I had a feeling. She let out a sigh, knowing he didn't mean to, because she's been there. She's definitely been there. And if at all possible, she is gonna quickly look around. Is there anyone else nearby?
Give me a perception check.
Ugh,
A
10.
10. You can hear off in the distance the same heavy footsteps that you heard earlier.
All right, she is going to quickly cast prestidigitation on the body, and she's going to escort Wayland around the alley, away from where all the footsteps are coming from, to try and get to the tavern.
What would you like to happen with prestidigitation?
She is just going to try to clean up the body,
Mm-hmm.
to try and remove the blood, to try and, so that way looks more or less gruesome, if at all possible. So that way it doesn't look like, some sort of normal attack.
Yeah, I mean, you can clean up the blood mess a little bit. It still looks like a body that's been torn to shreds.
That's fine,
To
as
shreds,
long
you
as the
say?
blood as long as the blood's cleaned up, it's all good. For the
Sure.
most part. Yes. And as
Uh,
soon as she does that, she's gonna whip around that corner with that boy and just try to go to the tavern.
fucking haul ass.
We're gonna
Um,
haul that fucking ass.
okay, so you head out of one of the adjacent alleyways back onto the street. You can still hear those heavy footsteps in the distance as you um, run a few more blocks away. You ultimately come to a ramshackle two-story building, broken slate tiles on the roofs, very much distressed stone outer facade banded together with iron, with a rather distressed wooden sign that says "The Rat's Den."
Alright, and do I see anybody nearby on the outskirts of it or
You do see movement inside.
inside? Okay. With a deep breath, she is going to kind of hold on to the boy's hand a little bit tighter and just say, and whisper to him, "Stay by my side. Do not leave my side. Understood?"
Mm-hmm.
And she's going to enter with him.
Okay. So as you open the door, you hear from a few blocks back just a blood curdling scream.
He is going to ignore that scream and keep going in and just sit at the farthest table
Get
away.
inside. Just get inside. Go.
With just get inside, don't make any sudden movements. It's gonna be alright. And she's gonna keep going to find that table that's furthest away from the most people while also keeping them a little bit more private.
Okay. Most of the tables at this time of night seem to be empty. There is one lone human tending to the bar and to any general food needs of anyone that's come in. You do see an area that's cordoned off by a curtain, and you can vaguely hear the sound of rolling dice behind it. But otherwise, it's quiet here.
Thank goodness. And she kind of lets her head fall forward for a moment before perking back up to see what's nearby. Is there like a menu at the table, or does she have to go up to, I guess, the main area? I'm guessing where someone would be to order food.
As you take a seat, the human at the bar will actually walk around the bar to you. And as you would expect, it's late. It's essentially the middle of the night. They look tired, but they kind of lean on the table next to you as they just ask, "What do you want?"
Well, what do you have?
"I got beer and gruel."
I will take gruel, please, and thank you.
All right. He looks over at the kid. "Beer or gruel?" And he looks up
Uh,
at the at the bartender. Looks up at you. Uh, Gruel.
gruel. She'll whisper to him. Good job, kid.
Gruel. All right, 2 gruels. Then he starts walking back, and you can hear the sound of rustling plates as he goes through a door behind the bar.
All
Um,
right.
as you
As
continue, go ahead.
But I was gonna say, as soon as the guy leaves, I'll tell him, I just need something. That I'm so sorry that we had to come to a place like this, but I promise one of my friends that I'm with, he's a great cook most of the time.
There
Sometimes
you
he has his off days, but once you try his food, I feel like you'll really like it.
go. Yeah, off days. We'll say that.
Yeah, off
Um,
days. Yeah. I'm so
um,
scared to see what happened on
he
Monday. Oh
he
gosh.
Waylon just kind of sits there, as a shy kid does, hands kind of in his lap, and just kind of nods as you talk to him. Um, you continue to hear the sound of rolling dice from that area that's cordoned off, and suddenly you hear one last roll of the dice, and you hear somebody. You just hear a loud slam as it sounds like somebody has just kind of hit a table that's over there, followed just by followed by laughing. Um, and you can hear from the other side of that curtain just better luck next time. And you hear somebody kind of get up and start walking towards the main area.
She is not going to pay them any mind. If anything, she's going to hold out her hand to Waylon just to reassure him. Be like, it's okay. People are like this. Just keep your focus on me. And she's just going to whisper this as quietly as possible.
Hmm.
Just kind of like a protective, I guess, mother in a sense, or siblings,
Mm-hmm. Something to that effect.
something, yeah. Because she's not sure how old this kid is yet, so.
What is age? Um, okay. So you see after a minute or so, uh, a fairly tall human male, greasy long hair, goatee, just comes out beaming, kind of tossing a pair of dice in his hands. And you can see past him somebody with their head kind of on the table. Almost looks like it's a grown man crying at the table. Um, and this is what you see.
Sorry, your microphone's fading out.
Still fading out.
Yeah, it did that for like the past like 30 seconds.
How about now?
I can hear you good, yeah.
Good. So this is the gentleman that you see leave that curtained off area.
Okay. And he's the one that's throwing the dice in the air?
Mm-hmm. And as he exits, the barkeeper brings over your food, sets it on the table, without another fucking word, just goes back behind the bar.
Jeez. She'll chance a glance, but for like a split second, then she'll focus back on the kid because she doesn't really want to draw any more attention to them.
Mm-hmm. As you go to steal a glance, you see that his eyes meet yours for just a second, and you can see the slightest extra smirk kind of hit the corner of his mouth as he goes to the bar and orders something to drink.
She'll do an audible sigh and just be like, "We're gonna eat our food quick, and we're gonna leave. All right, Waylon?"
Um, all right, so you eat with little disturbance. Um, and as you start to kind of finish up, he kind of spins around, just kind of leaning at the bar, and says, "Kind of late to be wandering around with a kid, isn't it?"
Is, but we just couldn't sleep, so we're gonna be heading back very shortly. We just wanted to grab something to eat.
Hmm. And so you chose gruel for your midnight snack, huh?
Only place that seemed to be open. You can't get over to the other district this late at night, apparently.
True. True, true, true. All right, well, have a good night. And he turns
Thank you
back
the
around to the
same.
bar.
And then once we're finished eating, she's gonna stack the plates nice and neat. Forks, spoons, whatever utensils we use, put them on top so everything's in nice, neat order for when they come
Hmm.
around to clean. With Waylon's permission, she's going to ask him if she can carry him back because she does not want him walking out.
He. He'll nod.
Okay. So she'll go to pick him up. She will hold him very close, and she'll also kind of wrap her cloak that she's wearing around him a little bit so he stays warm.
Hmm.
And she will make her way back to Leo's house.
To whose house?
Is it Leo?
Lars.
Or Lars? Wow. I don't know
Close.
why I had a Leo on the mind.
Hey, look, it's
Woo.
Tio and Lars's love child, all right?
I
Um,
mean, make it canon? I'm kidding.
do we want that? Nobody wants that.
No, nobody
Um,
wants that.
so as you leave the doors, you look out upon the city, still pitch black, other than the occasional torchlight.
Okay.
You hear something in your head.
In
You
my
hear a
head.
voice, and it's gravelly, almost distorted, almost not right. As it just says, "Someone like you could use as many friends as you can get."
Am I able to respond back to this voice?
You can try.
People like me are perfectly fine on their own, thank you. I have plenty of friends, and she'll keep walking.
Okay. So roll me a d20. Just a
Oh
flat
no.
d20.
Flat D20, you got it.
10. Okay.
10?
As you're making your way back through the city, you again start to hear those heavy footsteps. They don't seem but a couple of streets off from you.
Are they in the same direction that I'm trying to head?
Yes.
Is there any nearby alleyways that we can quickly duck into in the
Oh,
shadows
yeah.
to hide?
Absolutely.
Oh, she's gonna duck into an alleyway and hide behind whatever she can to fully cover them in shadows, and she's gonna take her cloak further, because as it's black to match her outfit, and just cover them.
Give me a stealth check. And I'll say at advantage because you're hiding in the shadows.
Perfect. Thank goodness, 17.
Okay. So you duck back and you see Another one of these automatons passed by, paired up with two humanoid guards as well. And they seem to be very conspicuously searching for something.
He's just gonna hold Waylon closer to her chest and just gently rub his back to reassure him that it's gonna be okay. And she's going to hopefully wait by. Are they walking by or are they entering the alleyway?
No, they walk by. But as you kind of examine out the end of the alleyway, you look around, you notice that there's a lot more torchlight traveling along the city streets at this point.
Okay. This ain't gonna be good. She is going to go ahead and try to maybe maneuver between the alleyways a little bit to try to keep cover in the shadows to try to get to Lars's place as much as possible. Because she knows if they're caught, eyes are going to be on them as there's like no one else out.
Okay. So you get a couple of blocks down. Over your head, as you saw before, you see those cable car lines. You see 3 that seem to be coming from that central cable car station that you visited earlier. Lars's house seems to be underneath the southernmost line, and you are at the center line. But as you go to run between alleyways, you hear a set of footsteps much closer to you as you hear, "You there, stop."
He will freeze in place and be like, "Yes, sir. I'm on my way home with my child."
You see another guard approach with an automaton next to him. He steps in front of the automaton, essentially acting as a buffer between the two, between you and it, rather. And he looks at you and says, "What are you doing out here this late?"
Son got out. He likes to, go out and explore. You know how children can be. I was just trying to get him and come back home. That's all. We're literally right down the street.
He says, "Ma'am, we just discovered a body in an alleyway not too far from here. You wouldn't happen to know anything about that, would you?"
Buddy, gosh, of course not. I was just out getting my son. I was just trying to come back home. What happened?
Give me a deception check. I have no idea.
I have no idea what you're talking about, sir.
The body, with the claw
19.
marks and the bite marks, why would I know anything about that?
Yeah, 19, though.
All right. He looks at you, suspicious, asks for your papers.
She will hand over her papers.
And holds his hand out for Wayland too. And you see him kind of duck behind your shoulder.
I'm terribly sorry. His papers are at home. We usually don't go out that much. I'm so sorry. If you can just excuse it this one time, or if there's any fee I need to pay for not having his papers present, that would be very much helpful.
He looks at your papers, Vivian, and looks back up at you. "Ma'am, all citizens, man, woman, or child, should always travel with their papers. Now, I could, in fact, have you arrested for this. Him for traveling without papers, and you for escorting a criminal. But since I am a saintly man, just a small tithe will see you home safely."
Sir, it won't happen again. How much do I owe you? Or and she'll pull out her bag.
Well, it depends. How much do you think your freedom is worth?
I believe I still have like, God, I think I have like 2 gold left. I'm gonna give him my last gold that I have. So I'm gonna give him 2 gold.
All right.
That's all I have.
He looks at you and looks at the 2 gold pieces now sitting in his hands. Well, you have a safe trip home, ma'am. I'm sorry. He looks at your papers one more time. Vivian. And he hands them back to you.
Thank you, sir. I promise it won't happen again. And she'll go ahead and turn around with Wayland in her arms and head home to Lars's house.
Okay. As you pass by block after block after block, you realize you've been out for quite a while. You start to see the sky lighten a bit, as by the time you reach Lars's house, the sun has risen again over the walls of the city.
I've been out all night. Oh, that ain't good. She is just, she has a lot to process. She's going to carefully, as soon as she gets to Lars's, enter the house and just try to carefully sneak upstairs. But if there's possibly any food out in the kitchen, there's no one there, she'll take it and then go upstairs with him.
So you manage to sneak your way into the house. As you reach the main area, you see that there are the embers of a fire in the corner, and curled up in front of them is Tio, just breathing calmly, heavily, with the occasional just...
That's right, he slept in front of the fire. She's just gonna keep on going upstairs into her room.
All right. Okay. You managed to get upstairs. You managed to get upstairs. And in your experience, these stairs can be kind of creaky, but you managed to get through with, but the smallest just... And as you reach that upper hallway, you see the same 2 doors on the side, one of which you know Sharid and Kairos have taken up residence in, and the one is where you were in,
Okay.
as well as another one at the end of the hall. With its door now closed, you can only assume that it's Lars's room.
Okay. Yeah, she'll go into her room that she has, and as soon as she enters, she'll quickly close the door. Is there a lock on these doors?
No.
Well, she is going to prop something up against that door, just in case.
Okay.
And then she's also going to set Wayland down on the bed.
All right. We'll say you managed to find a kind of beat-up wooden chair with a matching desk in the room. You take the chair, you prop it up against the door. And as you set Wayland down on the bed, it's certainly not the most comfortable bed. It's probably stuffed with hay or something to that effect. He just sits there, unsure of what to do, as he just kind of looks around at this unfamiliar building.
All right. She's going to sit down next to him, and she's going to look at him and be like, they already know you're a criminal?
He just shrugs. I don't know. I snuck into town, but like I don't think I was seen. But what are those papers they asked for? I don't have those.
Okay, we will. I don't even know if we can figure this out. I mean, I might have to talk to Lars to see if we can possibly figure something out. That guard knows you don't have papers, but papers are a way of entry. They list the job that you do. Um, Basically, it's a way that you're allowed to be here. Sneaking in here ain't good. I
But
mean, you've been able to, you know, get bad, or at least so far, but
yeah, but I
they're
don't have
aware.
that. I don't have that. I don't want to go to jail. I don't know what's gonna happen.
All right, she's gonna take a deep breath herself. She's gonna put both her hands on his shoulders. Take a deep breath. It'll be all right. We're gonna figure this out. I'll talk to Lars in the morning. I keep wait.
I didn't hear that last bit. What?
No, no, it's fine. It's just the voices in the head.
Yeah.
Um, but I'll 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 talk to Lars. Obviously, I'm gonna have to talk to my friends to let them know that you're joining us, but it's not safe for you to go out there. Because if they catch you during the daytime, I don't. Who knows what will happen? But we'll figure out. Maybe we can get you some forged papers or something, or
Hmm.
maybe he knows someone that can get you papers out you're properly in the city, and maybe talk our way into not having you listed as a criminal.
He says, "Oh, okay. Um, I'm gonna I'm gonna go sleep now."
All right, that's fine. And as he lays down, she is going to pull up the covers on him. And because it's daytime, she knows she's gonna have to go to the hearth and home. She's going to just take that level of exhaustion to stay up for the day.
Okay. Um. Okay. So the morning comes, actually fairly soon after you're there. You see the sun rise above the walls of the city. You start to hear some stirring from the rooms next to you. Um, and we'll say for just the slightest of bits, your eyes start to get heavy and you doze off for just a bit. And when you shake yourself too, it's almost like that kind of like that literal falling asleep. You get that falling feeling.
Okay.
Um, you jolt back awake, and Wayland is still asleep on the bed, and you can hear some movement downstairs.
All right. Without disturbing Wayland, she is going to carefully and quietly move the furniture back out, open the door just a smidge to sneak through, and try to see if she can meet up with Lars first.
Okay.
Wait,
As you
wait, not nice.
as you exit the room, you see that the door for Sharid and Kairos' room is left cracked open, and you catch a peek of Kairos nose deep in a book, seemingly oblivious to the world around him.
Thank goodness. Okay. She is going to go over to Lars's room because knowing that Tio is downstairs, she's gonna try to talk to Lars and see what she can get out of
Mm-hmm.
him.
Sure. So you very lightly knock on the door, um, and just a few seconds later, it swings open. Lars, fully clothed, looking like he's been up for a little bit, looks at you and like, "What can I do for you, big lady?"
Emma needed some help. Can we talk privately?
Geez, I leave you alone for one night and you need help already? Yeah, sure. Come on in.
She'll allow herself and she'll kind of bow out of respect and be like, I'm so sorry, and just lean against the wall as soon as she's in his room.
He'll, the halfling will kind of pull out a chair very similar to the one that you found in your room, swing it around and take a seat. and just kind of gesture. So, what do you need?
Okay. Well, let's just say I couldn't sleep last night, and I happened to, find a boy that's very young, doesn't seem to have any parents, and I decided to take him under my wing. I
You don't have any wings,
tra-
ma'am.
it's a figure of speech, sir.
Uh,
And anyways, I was bringing him back here because I couldn't just leave, a kid out there, and
mm-hmm.
he may have gotten caught by some guards. And while I was clear, apparently, from what I found out, the boy I brought back, they labeled him as a criminal, but he doesn't have any papers. How would we go
Ah,
about getting the kid papers so that way he's technically legally here? And
I
getting his
see.
record wiped clean, maybe.
You didn't happen to pay off one of the guards, did you?
I did. Because he was
Okay.
going to arrest us otherwise.
Yeah. So you got what do you people from the city call it? Hoodwinked. Well, kinda. So technically, the kid's a criminal. He's a criminal because he doesn't have papers. If he snuck into town somehow, good on him. But with as testy as some of the guards around here can be, anyone who doesn't have papers technically wasn't here legally. So that is a crime here.
He said that both of us could go to jail if we didn't. Well, I could go to jail for technically harboring a criminal, I guess it's what they call it.
Oh yeah.
And then him going to jail for not having papers.
Yep, that'd be the way of it. Hey, you at least have the guts to pay him off and you got back here, so usually if it doesn't work, you'd already be in the hold by now. So, not bad. But in terms of papers for the kid, where is he? Like,
He's asleep in my room.
ah. He gets up and goes to a nearby bookshelf, pulls out a file, and just starts rifling through some papers. And he pulls out a small stack. He's like, "All right, all right. Let me see. Let me see your papers. It's been a while since I did this."
She hands over her papers. Now she doesn't have her actual given last name on the papers,
Hmm.
so it just shows her first name.
Yeah, that's fine. Um,
Okay.
he'll look at it, and you can tell that he's kind of just going back and forth, adjusting things here and there, making sure that the format is right and things like that. He says, these papers are old, but maybe you can get by saying that he's been here for a while. I don't know. Um, let's see. What's the kid's name?
Wayland.
Waylon. Who the hell names a kid? Fine, whatever. Um, he jots it down. All right, the kid's gonna need a job. Like, I don't care whether he does it or not. The guards need to think he has a job.
And if he doesn't show up, will they come and track him down?
Well, that depends on how they're feeling that day. Sometimes they check, sometimes they don't. If you happen to be going in the general right direction, most of the times they'll leave you be, thinking that, you are going to work. But if the kid has, mining duty, and he is hanging out down here in the Warrens, might be an issue.
Okay, what do you do for a job per se? What's on your papers?
um, See, my papers say that I'm legally dead. So, my job is to not get seen.
Understandable. Do you think it could work if he technically came with the hearth or came to work with me at the hearth in hand or hearth at home? Wow, I words.
I,
Sorry, it's been a long night. I haven't really slept. It's I can't even begin to tell you. At the hearth and home, as maybe an apprentice, and that because I really don't want to take my eyes off of him.
And
Let's just
look,
say him and I have a connection that I need to keep an eye out for.
look, what you do with kids in the middle of the night on the streets is none of my business, ma'am. Look, here's what I'll do. I can't necessarily say apprentice, trash boy. He's gonna be trash boy.
Okay.
Make sure you need to use some of that silver tongue of yours. Get somebody at the Hearth and Home to sign this. All right,
Okay.
because without it, it's worthless. Like there's no validation that he has that job.
I can do that.
All
I
right.
will talk to them. Hopefully, I have to go in today, but boy's sleeping. I'll let him sleep for a little bit, and then we'll have to go in. And then she'll. Is there a window in his room?
In Lars's room?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can I tell what time of day it is?
Hmm. It is probably about an equivalent to like 9 a.m. Still early in the morning. You do remember on your papers you were supposed to be there first thing.
And you hear her mumbling that. All right, I'm gonna have to go wake up the boy. I'm gonna have. We're gonna have to go. Thank you for the papers for helping. If you need me to explain anything more, I can try to tell you as long as you won't freak out. And she will make her way out after she has everything gathered.
All right. Um, okay. So you Lars hands you the forged paper. And he just nods and says, "Hey, if I can help, as long as you don't forget our end of the deal."
Definitely not. And also, just for clarification, on the papers, does it list him as like my son
Um,
or is just
no,
someone that's in the city? No.
just
Okay.
someone in the city. Just
Okay.
so you wander back into the room where Waylon's sleeping, and he's just curled up under a makeshift blanket, dead asleep.
Without trying to disturb him too much, he's gonna try to pick him up, even with the blanket, and try to carry him back out and make her way to the cable car to
Okay.
go to the hearth and home.
All right. So you do. It takes you probably about 20 minutes to pick him up, walk slowly across block after block after block to get to that cable car station. And unlike last night where it was dead quiet, you see lines of people just queuing up to get in a cable car.
Is She is gonna have to try to wait in line to, and if she can, maybe sneak forward a bit if no one's paying attention to their spot.
It
If
takes you
she
probably
draws
about,
something together.
yeah, it takes you probably about 10, 15-ish minutes to get to the front of the line. And the woman that's manning the station window just looks at you. Papers.
She'll hand over both their papers.
She looks them over, looks at yours, looks at his, looks at yours, looks at you, and you can see that there's a little bit of suspicion in her eye. And she just shakes her head, stacks the papers, gives them to you, and says, "Get out of here."
Thank you. And I'm assuming it's a way she's allowing us to board.
Yeah.
Okay. We'll get on. She'll like be like, thank you so much. And
Mm-hmm.
yep,
So,
she'll get on and
yeah.
still hold him close.
Yeah, so you squeeze your way into a fairly crowded cable car bound for the lower stratum. And as it's going, you get obviously a sweeping view of the Warrens on the way up. And you can see roughly where that guard is probably laying unless he's been taken away. Or at least the alleyway where it is. You don't necessarily like see him, but
Yeah.
and so it takes probably about I don't know, 15 minutes for a cable car to board, go up the wire to the lower stratum, deboard, and as you step out onto the platform, you obviously hear the normal chatter of the people. Um, but among them, you see that there are small pockets of people just kind of like hushing to one another.
Oh, that can't be good. She's just gonna mind her own business and keep walking forward to the hearth and home.
Okay. Um, so you make your way there. The time of transit really sucks away some of your time, so it's probably like I don't know, 10-ish at this point,
Okay.
just because of the sheer size of the city.
Yeah.
Um, and as you walk up, you see the what was he? He was a half orc that kind of showed you around the restaurant yesterday, just standing outside, smoking a hand rolled cigarette, and his feet just tapping. And as he notices you approach, that tapping gets a lot faster.
I'm so busted. She is going to approach with Wayland in arms. He's still covered. But I know that I'm late. I'm so sorry. I was not able to sleep at all last night. I had to deal with him, and she'll kind of peel back the blanket a bit to show his hair. He needed help, and I couldn't just leave a kid out there, but I'm here to work, and he is going to be working here if you allow it. He really needs a job too. He's had it rough. He's been taken away from his parents, and I'm
You can
trying
just
to
see
help him
that.
get on the right path.
You can just see his face is just stoned at you. You're late for work, and you bring a kid and ask for a job for the kid. Why should I say yes?
Because we'll work twice as hard. We'll do more. We'll stay late if you need us to. We'll make it worth your while, I promise. He needs it more than I do. If I have to go back to the mines, so be it, but I can't allow him to go into the mines. It's just not cut out for him with what he's gone through, the trauma that he's dealt with. And if you will allow me to stay here, I will stay by his side and make sure he does his work that he needs to. He feels safest around me.
You see
But
him kind of wave his hand. All right, all right, all right, all right, all right, all right. I don't need the sob story. Look, here's what you get. All right, give me his papers.
he'll hand over the papers immediately.
He looks at you. And you expect me to put my name on forged papers? Really?
What we can do in this time, I don't know other route to go for him.
He says, follow me.
Okay.
And he walks into the building and takes you off to a side office and closes the door. He says, "Look, it's my job to manage this place, make sure it runs smoothly. If this was the Warrens, do whatever the hell you want. I don't care. But unfortunately, we've got clout. I hate it. So here's what you're gonna do. You want the boy to be a trash boy, so he can have some modicum of income? Sure, fine. He can have a job. He's not getting paid.
Okay.
All right. And in fact, I originally had you as a hostess. You're gonna be a dishwasher now."
Yes, sir.
He says, "I'll sign this paper. Sure. But the second something goes wrong or you get called out, I never touch this."
Yes, sir.
You see him kind of slam the paper down on the desk, angrily sign it, and he hands it back to you. He says, "Your shift today, consider it canceled. You're already here more than halfway through. There's no point in you being here. Consider it a day off, and it's me being nice. If you cause any more trouble or are late for another shift, you will have the guards, and you will probably get thrown into the arteries. Do you hear me?
I understand.
Go home."
All right. Yes, sir. Thank you. I appreciate this so much.
And so he
And she'll
hands you
go
back
ahead.
your papers and just kind of usher you out.
All right. She'll go ahead and collect everything, and she'll make her way back to the cable car.
Okay. So about this time, between the conversation, walking back and forth, it's probably like 11:30, close to midday. Where would you like to go?
If it's midday, she is. She has no more money, so she's gonna have to. Tio wasn't there, was he?
He probably was, but he was cooking. And the half orc was very adamant that you leave.
That's also fair. So she will. She'll go back to Lars's, and if he has any types of like scraps of cloth around,
Mm-hmm.
she is going to try to make better looking clothing for the boy, while also making sure either he has something on his wrist to cover up his wrist or long sleeves to mask the sickles on his wrist.
Okay. So you make your way back. Um, Lars asks you as you come in. He's now down on the main floor. So how'd it go?
Got demoted. So kind of in trouble, but not as in trouble. He did sign the papers.
Well, sounds like a good day. And
Not the
as you
worst, but
and as you ask him for those scraps, he looks around. He's like, I might have some. And so he goes rifling through a closet, and he pulls out essentially scraps of a burlap sack. And he says, "This is the best thing I got. I think your wizard friend's still up there studying. He found some books that I let him keep. He did some. I don't know. I don't know how he's reading them, but
so he also didn't go to his shift.
no, no, he's been up there reading all day."
All right, so two of us technically. Well, didn't want to play hooky, but he's gonna be in worse trouble than I am tomorrow, so that's a good sign. Horrible to say that, but that's a
Yeah.
good sign at least.
So, to kind of wrap up, you mend up Waylon's clothes. So he's essentially got this poncho with just a strip of burlap down the center of it. But it covers up what you need to cover up. Um,
Perfect.
you manage to take some scraps of that burlap sack, essentially making a cuff or a wristband for him, to cover up that mark. Um, but otherwise, you're left in Lars's house with about a half a day left. He informs you that obviously Tia went to work, Sharid went for his first match in the mall, um, and that's where we're gonna leave it for you.
Oh my god, I can't believe I survived that night. I thought it was gonna go a lot worse.
No, it's fine. You are a lucky person.
I was so lucky. I usually roll like shit.
Yeah. So good on you.
Well, that was fun. Thank you, thank you.
Yeah, no
I now
problem.
have one of my own. I've been
Yeah.
waiting for this moment.
You have a sidekick. Yes.
I do have a sidekick. It's like a
For
familiar,
now.
but not a familiar. Don't say for now.
No, I don't know what you're talking about. What? So, thanks everyone who decided to join us. Thanks for watching. And we will see you guys again on Monday for our next group session. So take care, and we will see you then.
Bye.
Bye bye.